Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So Twitter has a new CEO now. Jack Dorsey steps down from Twitter CEO position after he founded the company and years of work. But now he stepped down and he's made way for the old Chief Technology Officer, Parag Agrawal. So he is now the new CEO of Twitter. So one of Parag's tweets from 2010 has come back to haunt him with so many people quote tweeting it. We're going to take a look at the tweet and take a look at kind of the hypocrisy that this man has been putting out as Twitter's CTO and now CEO with regards to misinformation, which he's claimed before was a big problem going into the 2020 elections, and who can say what on their platform regarding what laws are in place in different countries. So let's take a look at this person and what he has said. So here it is, Parag Agrawal, CEO of Twitter now. All right, let's take a look at what he said. So in 2010, he said, a quote, "If they're not going to make a distinction between Muslims and extremists, then why should I distinguish between white people and racists?" Look at Jeremy's tweet there. Best we can do is blame white supremacy. A lot of people are quote tweeting this and saying, well, this is the new CEO of Twitter. What is this? Here's the tweet. There's the new CEO of Twitter. Can you believe this? This is ridiculous. This is what he thinks. Well, yes and no. This is what the quote actually was. So NPR took the quote from a transcript of The Daily Show, obviously back in 2010, where it says, if you're a fan of The Daily Show, then you're probably familiar with regular correspondent Asif Manvi. He's been in a lot of movies. So here's his quote from The Daily Show. "Well, John, if they're not going to make a distinction between Muslims and violent extremists, then why should I take the time to distinguish between decent, fearful white people and racists?" So that's the quote, the joke, I guess it is, from 2010's The Daily Show with Jon Stewart and Asif Manvi. But the thing is, this quote here that he said is actually different. It's not the full quote because he's taken out decent, fearful white people. He's just said white people. I would say that's misinformation and missing context. As someone who says this, our role is not to be bound by the First Amendment. This is what he said in an interview from November 18, 2020. So around the time of the election. And he says, our role is not to be bound by the First Amendment. Our role is to serve a healthy public conversation, and our moves are reflective of things that we believe lead to a healthier public conversation. The kinds of things that we do about this is focus less on thinking about free speech, but thinking about how the times have changed. The times have changed. Free speech doesn't matter. Missing context matters. Direct quotes matter. But the CEO of Twitter can't even produce an actual direct quote when he tweets something out. So I had to go myself and do it for him because your post is missing context. It is missing context because you haven't put in the exact quote. So someone who wants to say, we need to worry about misinformation on the internet, which is what he was asked here. When you talk about letting people see content and draw their own conclusions or come to their own opinions, I think the way that social media platforms traditionally presented themselves. So we're just a neutral space. People come to see us and we don't try to adjudicate it. He said, I'm not saying we're a neutral party to this whole conversation. We're a critical part of the fabric of public conversation, and you wouldn't want us to be adjudicating what's true or what's false in the world. Well, glad I don't consider you to be adjudicating what's true or false in the world when you can't even get the quote right. Because during the last election, everyone saw that Donald Trump was permanently removed from Twitter because of the violation of the glorification of violence policy right here. That's what they said. Well, it was all about that January 6th debacle and whatever happened that day. I'm not going to into that. But what happened was Trump posted a couple of tweets saying we shouldn't be silenced. Twitter is not about free speech, which literally Trump is proven correct by saying Twitter is not about free speech because the new CEO of Twitter said in an interview, our role is not to be bound by the First Amendment. So Trump is proven right after he's kicked off the platform for tweeting and saying Twitter is not about free speech. Meanwhile, you've got other groups and other members like Suhail Shaheen from the Taliban spokesperson, and other Taliban members on Twitter when Donald Trump is removed because they were saying, oh, this could be dangerous to the election and everything because he might not leave peacefully. What happened that day? Trump walked out of the White House and onto the helicopter and out. There was no violence. Nothing happened like that. He didn't refuse to leave. He just walked out of the office and said, yep, thank you for the time, and I'm off. But we still have people like the Taliban on Twitter. And if you say, well, they've taken over Afghanistan, they're the ruling power. Okay, but it's very interesting because Twitter, we know, is super left and they want to promote how they're pro-women, pro-LGBT, pro-everything like this. Not free speech, but pro-LGBT and women. Australia postpones its first ever Afghanistan cricket test match. Why? Because it follows the Taliban's de facto ban on Afghan women playing cricket or any other sport. So you've got the Taliban on Twitter running around who want to ban women from playing sport, but they're fine. But Donald Trump tweets out Twitter's against free speech, which he's proven correct because the CEO said it himself, and he gets banned. And if we want to go into either further misinformation, how Twitter wants to be a leading driver in the public discourse and war, all this other stuff. Well, CNN just tweeted this out a few days ago about the car accident in Waukesha, I don't know how to say that one. And they said, we'll hold a moment's silence today, marking 1 week since a car drove through a city Christmas parade, killing 6 people. A car. So the car drove itself, did it? Where's the tweet that says, this is misleading and this is missing context? Where is it? Because it was a man who drove the car. Because it doesn't fit the narrative that they don't want to say a black man who was a BLM supporter drove the car. They don't want to say that. But there you go. More misinformation. Twitter is a double standard platform. The CEO says they're not for free speech under the First Amendment. They don't want to be a neutral party to this whole conversation, but they're a critical part of the fabric of the public conversation. So there you have it. Twitter's new CEO, Parag Agrawal, his old posts come back to haunt him. And if this is the direction Twitter's going to go moving forward, well, I think we're all in trouble. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share this one out, and I'll see you in the next one.